Welcome back to For Love and Justice. If you hear some strange noises in the background, it's my dog whimpering because I had to shut her out because she's trying to bark at everyone, at the neighbors, at leaves falling on the ground. Yeah, she had to go. Now, in 2025, I plan to have many guests on the podcast. I've got concepts of a plan, guys. It's all happening. But this has been a wild and crazy year, and so I thought I would do one last solo pod to just kind of close the year out. And even though a lot of bad shit happened, there was good shit too. And I'd like to take a moment to remind us all that shit just happens, and we create stories about whether it's good or bad in our minds. And our thoughts create our external reality. That's my woo-woo TED Talk for the day. But yeah, a lot of good shit happened, including if you're into sports. I'm not really, but I'm into T Swift. The Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl, and it was great for me because Taylor was there. The smooch heard around the world. And of course, it was a presidential election year. Those years are always crazy. This one was extra batshit. And I know a lot of us have been processing our emotions, how we feel about the outcome of this election. There's been lots of conversations and narratives about, who's to blame, what the incoming administration will look like. And I have stayed, I say pretty quiet. If you follow me on Instagram, my stories are always popping off. But I've been processing, and like I said, things just happen, and then it's how we deal with it, it's how we internalize it in the narrative that we build for ourselves. So I've really been taking some time to decompress since the election. I have this platform, and I want to make sure that whoever wants to listen to me stays listening. I don't want to isolate people. I don't think anything can ever change if we don't talk to each other. And I also believe that we're stronger when we work together. I think we have more in common with our neighbors, people in our community, than we do with the elites in power, those who are supposed to represent us, but don't really. They represent corporate interests. So when I do talk on social media or on my podcast, I do want to give a disclaimer. When I speak in terms of Republicans are doing this, or, the GOP or Democrats, I'm going to shit on Democrats too. By the way, I'm independent. I do not claim either party because I've always been a GDI kind of person. I like being able to criticize everyone in an unbiased way. So that being said, when I do talk about the two parties, I want to make it very clear and very known that I am not speaking about voters, because we hold the same amount of power. And we're all trying to do the best we can with all the propaganda we have, to cipher through it, to use discernment, to do our own research. And so I see it as we're all in this together. And I think the next 4 years could actually be a chance to come together, to unite. But we're going to get into that. I'm struggling internally. Should I just go into Trump? Or should I just blaze through the year of events? And I think I'm just going to rip off the Band-Aid and get the Trump talk out of the way. Like I said, I plan to have guests on in the new year, many different perspectives. I don't know that a lot of people are ready to talk about it right now. We're kind of in the stage where it's kind of like, okay, we fucked around. Now let's wait and find out and see what happens. But there has been this narrative of who is to blame. Is it Kamala? Is it racists and bigots? Is it the Democratic establishment? Is it Joe Biden? Is it sexism? all of the usual suspects. And while I do, which first of all, who cares what I think? Everyone has an opinion. They all stink. Um, but this is my podcast and this is a solo pod, so I'm just gonna give it to you. I do think many factors played into it. I do think Joe Biden waited too long to drop out. He all but said he was going to be a one-term president. He heavily implied that. That was kind of the agreement to get the votes, right? We didn't want 8 years of Joe Biden. It was kind of a transition period. Let's get Trump out and then let's figure it out. And they did not figure it out. So I do think Joe Biden and the Democratic establishment bear a lot of the blame. I think Kamala, this is hard because I think when she started her campaign, it was full of hope, it was full of promise, it was fun. She was leaning into Gen Z, getting the youth vote. And then she became a Republican. You know, people want to talk about when she became black, which is, I'm struggling for the words. It's not a thing. So we're just, Kamala paid it no mind. We're not going to pay it any mind. But toward the end of her campaign, which it was an extremely short campaign, I do think she mostly did the best she could. Um, but yeah, she became a Republican at the end and latched on to the Cheneys and tried to get the Republican vote, which was never going to happen. Um, the reason Trump is so successful, there's many reasons for this as well, but he embraces the Republican base. He gives them a voice. The progressive left, I know that conservatives are going to roll their eyes at this, but the progressive left, we don't feel heard. We don't feel represented. Um, AOC just lost the bid for the top Democratic spot on the Oversight Committee. She lost to another old man. He looks very old and crusty. And this is what we're talking about. And again, there was the slightest bit of hope because, again, I'm not a Democrat, but Republicans do not represent my views. So what are you left with? And this is kind of the conundrum we run into because what's the point in voting Democrat when they sit on their asses, don't get anything done, and they just let themselves get steamrolled by someone the American public sees as a strongman. And we don't have that on the left. We have Bernie. And that's about it. And he is also old. So shit's bleak is what I'm saying. And I just don't think anyone stood a chance against Trump. I think this is, and that's not to say I support him. I do not support Trump. I will not support Trump. But do people I love support Trump? Yes. Is he the president? Yes. Is all this happening? Yes. And so we have to deal with that. You know, I have hope just seeing the reaction being so different from 2016. I think 2016 we were all blindsided and everyone thought it was a joke that just was taken too far. But no, he won the popular vote. He won the electoral vote. He is going to be our president again. That is what the people wanted, the people who voted, which a third of our country does not vote. We have a voting problem. I live in Arkansas and voter turnout is atrocious. And that's kind of the problem here. And I'm going to shit on the Democrats today because they didn't earn our vote. And that's the sad truth. They dangle carrots and they expect us to just keep chasing the carrots. And sorry, I'm trying to choose my words here because, like I said, I do not support Trump. I am potentially more scared of Elon Musk getting into the White House. I don't, this is the thing I don't think people are talking about enough. I'm kind of, Trump is like old news, whatever. He's gonna fuck shit up. He's gonna do his thing. People love it. So, whatever, I've accepted that. But Elon Musk, guys, we are not talking about this fucker enough. He is not, he's not American born, first of all. He is from South Africa. He then became a resident of Canada. Then he became a resident of the United States. He also is the richest man in the world. And we've already had such an issue. And this is part of, I think whether you're left leaning or right leaning, whatever party you subscribe to, I think everyone knows in their bones, in their gut, that something is off, that there is corruption. And a lot of that is all the corporate money in politics. That was actually started with Reagan. And it has continued to get worse and worse and worse. Now we have the richest man in the world in the White House, in the president's ear, heading up a committee to make spending decisions. They're weighing whether they're going to cut Social Security. So yeah, and none of this is going to affect Elon Musk. He's going to continue being the richest man in the world, pumping us for all we're worth. So for me, this has become more about getting Elon out of the White House. And I hope we can at least agree on some of that. I know he has some worshipers. Apparently Nick Jonas just tweeted his support. I know Joe Rogan loves him, and Joe Rogan has the biggest podcast. He was actually unseated by Kylie Kelsey launching her podcast. So congrats to Kylie Kelsey. Queen, is it King or no? Kylie Jenner is King Kylie. This is Queen Kylie. So congrats to Queen Kylie. I don't know that it will last, but still bragging rights because, yeah, a lot of people love Joe Rogan and Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy and all of these millionaires, billionaires. And now they're running our country, and we're gonna see what that looks like. So my stance is just the American people fucked around, and we're about to find out. We're gonna spend the next 4 years finding out, and then we'll see if we can recover after that. And I'm gonna wrap this up because I don't want to harp on this, but I will also point out Tesla, Elon's company, receives billions of federal funding for his various, space projects. What was it he announced the other day? He wants to build something new, something very important and not frivolous at all. But having him head up a committee that decides on federal spending when he's not even an elected representative of the government, he's just the richest man in the world who already receives federal funding and is now going to make damn sure that he receives more at the cost of your Social Security. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. That's my TED Talk since Trump won the election. It's happening. It's reality. It's been really hard to grasp onto that, but the only way we're going to make it through the next 4 years is together. And I really don't want to fight anybody. I want everyone to come together because it's our rights at stake. It's not just my rights. I know I talk a lot about reproductive freedom and my infertility journey and this and that. But I'm really not just concerned about my rights. I'm concerned about everyone, including my parents and my grandmother who spent their entire life working hard so they can have a solid retirement. And yeah, that's all I'll say is let's just stay calm and we'll see. We shall fucking see. Okay, now on to the fun stuff. I say the fun stuff. It wasn't the most fun year, but some other shit did happen. It wasn't just the presidential election. There was also assassination attempts on Trump's life. And I would also like to point out, it's weird that we know more about the United Healthcare CEO's assassination than we do about the 3 attempts on Trump's life. It's very, very weird. But we're not going to get into conspiratorial zone over here. But yeah, there were 3 attempts that we know of on Trump's life this year. And it did not slow the man down, which, speaking of, I'm going to brush past this because I do have a podcast planned to talk about this topic and other borderline conspiratorial topics. But the United Healthcare CEO was assassinated. Luigi Mangione is the suspect, and also the star of A Million People's Wet Dreams. Yeah, a whole movement has started because of this assassination. And like I said, I have a whole podcast plan, so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it, especially I know it's a very sensitive subject. I will just say, and this is humor, guys, I will just say that women are not used to seeing a man with a plan who can execute that plan, take accountability for that plan, and then the footage of him he's trying so hard to communicate. What man do you know tries to communicate? Anyway, I'm just saying women are starved, okay? We're over here reading smut, and the men are dropping the ball. And murder is bad. Not saying that what Luigi Mangione allegedly did. I'm just going to leave it at that. Murder's bad. We know this. That's a basic universal truth. But I think if you completely ignore the reaction, and if you're like Trump and you just call it a sickness and you disregard it as a sickness, the sickness is the healthcare system. That's why people are reacting the way they are. It's not because they suddenly think murder is great. No, it's because of the ripple effects this is going to have. But yeah, murder's bad. We're just feral. What else happened? What else happened? The greatest love story that should have never been told happened. Jennifer Lopez spent, oh God, how much money was it? It was an insane amount of money, of her own money, because no one else would fund this like music video documentary thing that she did about her and Ben Affleck's love story. And if you watched it, which if you didn't, kudos to you. I had a friend who was like, it's funny. So I had to sit through it. And I do regret that time spent. So I would not recommend watching it. But you could tell that Ben was super uncomfy. After this came out, Jennifer Lopez had to cancel her tour because tickets weren't selling. It was a really cringy look. And then she and Ben split up. So Bennifer is no more once again. Katy Perry tried to make a comeback and it was a major flop, just like her. Um, she tried to poke fun at the male gaze with her video Woman's World. And it just sounds like she hasn't moved on mentally from 2010 when she peaked. I think she's still there, and I think we should leave her there. Brat Summer happened. Brat Summer was fucking huge. It was everywhere. It was part of Kamala's campaign, which didn't carry her to the finish line, but Drake and Kendrick Lamar also had an epic rap battle. Kendrick arguably or unarguably, I feel like it's unarguably won. Maybe there's some Drake fans out there who might disagree with me, but Taylor takes all her friends to the summit, and Kendrick Lamar is good friends with T Swizzle. And that was actually one of the critiques Drake had. So keep on hating, Drake. JoJo Siwa rebranded. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google it. Her looking like the main singer of Kiss will pop up. It's not a cute look. It's a little. And then of course my favorite topic, the fall of Puff Daddy. And now Jay-Z, even though he's trying to say he was never close with Diddy, which is hysterical. Yeah, and I have a podcast plan to get it. That's my conspiratorial podcast episode. We're going to get into all of the P. Diddy shit. That is my favorite topic to talk about this year. And going into 2025, we're only going to find out more. And Yeah, I'm just here for it. I'm popping my popcorn. Because also I watched Making the Band. My favorite band was Danity Kane, and I was so heartbroken when they broke up, when they didn't make it. I used to re-listen to their music and just cry because I'm like, it doesn't matter how talented you are. Like, because if it was just based on talent, Dandy Kane would have made it. But now it's super interesting to think back to that time because he was extremely abusive. And I started watching Making the Band on YouTube. It's super low quality. But I just had to watch, some of the old episodes. And it was just crazy to see how terrified everyone was of Diddy all the time. And it's Hollywood's biggest open secret that we all knew about. But now it's all really coming out. And yeah, Diddy fucked around and now we're gonna find out. Now this is not a comprehensive roundup. Many more things happened this year. Um, but these were the things that kind of rocked our world. As we dive into 2025, oh, that rhymed. I didn't even mean for that to happen. But as we head into the new year, it's important to reflect on the year that just happened. And I know we recapped on a broad level, but I invite you to check in with yourself and maybe journal about all of the things you did this year, all of the things you learned. Because if you're just going by the list of crazy shit that happened, you're not really getting the full picture of your personal growth and your journey. We are the main characters of each of our own stories. And I really just want to empower my listeners to take control of your life, take control of the narrative. Let 2025 be the year you become the main character of your own story instead of Trump or Elon. Okay, guys, that's the show. Thank you so much for listening to me for these past 22 minutes. I tried to keep it nice and short and sweet for you. Sabrina Carpenter reference. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Don't set resolutions, just intentions. Resolutions are stupid, but goals are good. And if you want to set some goals this year, I wrote a little book with my friend Malia about goal setting. It's called You Goal Girl. It's available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books A Million, anywhere books are sold. Go ahead and order now. Get it here in time for Christmas or in time for the new year if you're buying it for yourself. And yeah, let's kick 2025 right in the fucking nuts. Thank you for listening to For Love and Justice. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share with all your friends so we can build this community. And join my Facebook group.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.